Well, welcome viewers, Dr. JWA, theologist. Who is ruling Australia? Well, we know the banks are, but this is a behavioural political analysis, episode 24, when Australians started reclaiming conscience from the system. Episode 23, I explored the paradox of institutions redefining constitutional rights while still claiming to protect them. Tiggle versus giggle. And I just want to repeat, that is a defining moment for Australia. We either let it all go down the drain or we stand up and say, wait, God knows what a male and female is. He put us here. Once these institutions, these courts and things start thinking they're God, history proves that's the beginning of the end of that civilization. Anyway, they seem to know more than history. Watch this space. Well, in this episode, viewers, I'm going to examine the deeper turning point that follows citizens beginning to recover conscience from these illegitimate institutional dependencies. Because at first, Australians still waited for permission to speak, permission to question, permission to disagree, permission to defend conviction publicly without fear of social, professional, or institutional consequence. And that dependence had become so normal, many people no longer recognized it existentially. Then slowly, another recognition began surfacing beneath all this exhaustion. Try and live in Australia, it's exhausting. Conscience was never supposed to belong to the system in the first place. A man sits quietly inside a church car park after another week of economic strain, political noise, and emotional fatigue saturating the atmosphere around ordinary life. The engine remains running, the radio remains off, and for the first time in years, the silence itself feels clearer than the narrative competing for the control around him. And viewers, that is a defining moment. That moment matters enormously because institutional dependency deepens when populations stop trusting conscience and start outsourcing moral interpretation entirely to administrative authority. How many people got the vaccine and didn't really want it? Ding! Wakey, wakey. Well, the paradox intensifies. Institutions continue speaking the language of empowerment, while citizens increasingly feel psychologically hesitant to act without institutional validation attached to the action itself. People wait for approval before speaking truth, wait for permission before defending boundaries. And I say to my daughters, you don't let anybody cross your boundaries. Scream, yell, shout, do whatever you have to. Protect your boundaries. Wait for social safety before expressing conviction. There is no social safety anymore. You have to stand up for your boundaries, your convictions. And somewhere beneath the adaptation, another devastating reality slowly emerges. A population disconnected from conscience, Western civilisational conscience, becomes increasingly governable through emotional management. And that's why Australia's older, quote, older constitutional and Christian foundations matter far beyond religion alone. Conscience stood before coercion. because human beings answered ultimately to higher authority, not fluctuating institutional narratives that could end up anywhere. Tickle versus giggle. Look it up. Truth, I'm telling you, the tickle versus giggle situation is the fork in the road. Either you wake up to this institutional abuse, putting itself above God, or you just watch the decline of the nation. There you go. Truth restrained power. Law restrained rulers. Freedom carries responsibility, and government remained limited because the citizen was never designed to become psychologically subordinate to endless, unpredictable, immoral administrative interpretation. And those protections did not disappear entirely. They're still there. But the consciousness required to live them weakened beneath decades of procedural expansion, emotional conditioning, dependency normalization, and political overstimulation. A woman stands at a kitchen bench beside school notices, overdue bills, and another digitally delivered policy update, and everything around her asks for compliance. Very little asks for courage, and somewhere beneath the fatigue, another recognition begins surfacing. Reclaiming conscience feels psychologically dangerous, precisely because the atmosphere has spent years and years and years training people to distrust their own moral clarity. And that recovery changes the nervous system gradually, the whole way in which people approach life. People begin slowing down internally, questioning narratives carefully, separating truth from emotional manipulation, recognizing the difference between compassion and control, and recovering moral responsibility instead of endless reactive outrage. The citizen, the Australian, slowly re-emerges from beneath the managed participant role, not violently, consciously. And this is the deeper recovery point. Not rebellion against society, reintegration with moral reality stronger than political fog and institutional blur itself. God above government, conscience before coercion, family before bureaucracy, dignity before utility, and freedom joined inseparably to responsibility. And these principles do not destabilize healthy civilization. They stabilize it against illegitimate institutional overreach, which is what Australia is being abused by. The church car park feels still now. If you're listening to this, I bet it does. And so does the country too. And somewhere beneath the exhaustion in Australia, another truth slowly begins surfacing. Australia will begin recovering when its people stop asking the system for permission to exercise the conscience their inheritance already has protected, their constitutional inheritance. I'm Dr. J.W. Ayub, theologist. Like, subscribe, comment to educate me, share to help somebody else. Bye for now.